All right, here we go. We are live with the Expand Your Brand workshop. This is a 2-day workshop we are doing online virtually, and we are going to be walking you through exactly how you can build your own thought leadership platform. So really excited because we've got 6 hours together to go through a whole bunch of different stuff. So whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, right on our native webinar platform, wherever you are, really happy you're joining us. This is going to be pretty exciting because for myself, I have literally changed my life building thought leadership platforms, and I'm doing things I never thought was possible, all because I did this stuff. And over the next 2 days, we're going to be breaking down not only exactly what I've done in terms of building these things out, but you're going to be building out your game plan at the exact same time. So what this is going to look like is today, we're going to do a whole bunch of heavy lifting today in terms of making you think about who you want to target, all that kind of stuff. We have a whole bunch of different exercises we'll be working on. tomorrow, once you have your game plan built today, tomorrow we're going to go more granular in terms of strategy, in terms of podcasting, building out a platform. If it's a TV show, conference, whatever it is, we're going to go more granular there. And then I'll be able to share some more stories about exactly what I did, some challenges I encountered, how we got over those challenges. But we need that foundation first. So today is all foundation building. Tomorrow is like the nitty gritty and some blood, some guts in the street in terms of problem solving and what we can do there. We do have Katie managing the chat. So if you have questions, comments, whatever it is, definitely put it in the chat. Oh, Val, I'm looking good today, apparently. So that's awesome. Thanks, Val. So if you do have questions and comments, definitely put it in the chat and we'll get to them. What I think is going to work best, just because we have people from all over the place here. If you do have questions, I will be pausing at the end of each kind of segment we're running to do some Q&A and make sure you're keeping track. I won't be doing them as we as they come in, because it would just overwhelm everything. So we're getting a bunch of different comments here. So that's Powell. Nice to see you. Dakota. Nice to see you. Gideon, good to see you. Tony, that's Sandeep, Jimmy, awesome. Okay, cool. So let's get going. We have a whole bunch of stuff to cover over the next 3 hours. So let's rock and roll. So my goal today for you is, if you don't have a thought leadership platform, I want you to create one today with me. We're going to be going through the entire exercise on building this out. So I want to make sure that you have a pen handy, you have paper handy, whether it's a notepad, whatever it is. I want to make sure you're ready to rock with that kind of stuff. Now, if you already do have a thought leadership platform, because I saw the names of everybody who registered for the workshop, some of you have podcasts already, some of you have YouTube channels. I really, really want to challenge you to not only expand that current thought leadership platform, or think of a second thought leadership platform you can use to really get out there and crush it. So, because I know with myself, there's so many people. Like now we actually work with different events and conferences to help them scale, and so many events. Like maybe you're running a meetup for your industry, and maybe you're getting 50 people out there. Well, why not run one for 500 people? You're putting the same time and effort into it. Might as well just have more people to impact there. So I really want to challenge you to think bigger. All right, here we go. So what I'm going to show you right now are the exact strategies, like no joke, the exact strategies I used to launch not only my podcast, which was the very first thing I did, then my TV show, which was the second thing, and then the conference. Now, with me, it's everything kind of leads into the next thing, even though you don't realize it at the time. So with myself, going way back, so I was investing in real estate, hit a road bump where I basically, my entire life blew up. And then the very first thing I did was I was talking with a guy who's turned into a mentor of mine. And he told me that I needed to start a podcast. Now, this was back some years ago. So he said, you have to start a podcast. I'm like, okay. And he said, you have to start a daily podcast, because that's what every single day. So that's what I did. And I didn't know it at the time, but that set me on the right path for where I'm at today. Because let me explain. So with the podcast, number one, it got me connected with people. I started learning like who the who's who was in the space. I got to talk with these people. And some of these people I interviewed on the podcast, an hour of their time was worth thousands of dollars, because they were pretty successful people. But because I ran a podcast, I basically got to ask them whatever I wanted to ask them in the span of those 60 minutes or 45 minutes. So I got access to people I didn't really have access to as an outsider, but the podcast gave me the in. The podcast also taught me how to ask questions, have better questions to ask people, how to talk with people, how to deal with things on the fly if situations come up, all that kind of stuff. So it was really the starting ground, or the proving ground, I guess you could say, for what would come next. So I ran the podcast for a really long time. And I remember it was around episode 100, I really started questioning why I was running this podcast. I was like, I'm putting in all this time and effort. I didn't really realize, what was going on. I was, so many hours, hundreds of hours went into this, doing a podcast episode every single day. I was editing everything myself. It was taking so much time, and I wasn't building a list. I couldn't see any benefit of it. And then I started thinking about it. And on the real estate side, because I was running a real estate focused podcast, I really uncovered what connected all the most successful investors together. And that formed the basis of a lot of stuff that I teach now and how I approach real estate investing. So it did pay off. Now, hopping from the podcast, because I got kind of tired of doing the podcast, and then I moved over to the TV show because we did like 450 podcast episodes. So I moved over to the TV show, and that was a different experience. As with TV, you have cameras in your face rather than just your podcast. You're in a studio with people rather than just being behind a webcam. It taught me how to deal with guests. And because doing an interview with somebody over webcam, they're in their safe space, you could call it. They're feeling really comfortable. With a TV show, I don't know what it is, but you could be having a great conversation with somebody. They're feeling really natural. You sit them on set, and then the lights go on, and then they freeze up, and then they can't talk. So from a TV show perspective, it taught me how to be good on camera. How you have to be a little bit more animated because the camera sucks energy off of you. It taught me how to think on my feet because we just rolled with it and tried not to have too many cuts just to keep it natural. So you have to really think of, understand what the guest is saying, think of questions because sometimes they go off track and you have to pull them back. You have time constraints as well. So, you have, let's say you're running an 11-minute segment, then you cut to TV commercials. You have to be able to interject with the guests to keep them on track so you can hit your time. So all these lessons I learned doing the TV show. And then what happened was I decided to run this conference in the middle of the pandemic. So basically what happened was my fiance and I were watching Shark Tank in her condo, and the lockdown had just happened. So there were no cars on the street. It was like a ghost town. And we were watching Shark Tank. Kevin was just giving it to somebody over their valuation, just raking them over the coals. And I turned to her and I said, you know what? I'm going to run a real estate conference with Kevin O'Leary as the speaker. And she said, okay, yeah, whatever. And then a couple of days later, we were in touch with Kevin, and the rest is history. But I wouldn't have been able to do the conference if it weren't for the TV show and if it weren't for the podcast. Let me break this down. The conference, I already knew a lot of the top people in the real estate space through the podcast. So now I was able to go to those people once I had the conference built up. And we'll be covering the strategy behind how you actually build this stuff later on. But I was able to go to these people and say, hey, listen, I have Kevin O'Leary on board. Like, let's talk about having you on the conference, right? That I wouldn't have, if I didn't have that Rolodex of speakers that I knew, I would not have been able to put on the conference. So the podcast was a blessing because it gave me access to these people who now I could contact and set up this conference with. The TV show was great. You have all the lights, you have the pressure, you have to deal with people. Talking on stage in front of thousands of people is a totally different beast in itself, but being on the TV show helped me prepare for the bright lights on stage and being able to talk and run that kind of thing. So there's all these lessons that you learn with each different platform, and I'm so glad that I was able to run each platform because that got me to the next level and the next level and the next level. So as we go through today and break things down and you start building your blueprint for your thought leadership platform, like, just keep in mind, like, this is just the starting point. Where you end up, if you asked me 5 years ago if you ever thought I'd be running the largest real estate investing conference in the country, I would tell you you were crazy. If you asked me 3 years ago, I would tell you you were crazy. So you never know where this kind of stuff will take you and what kind of people you will meet through those thought leadership platforms, what opportunities will come from it. Because I can tell you right now, my life has completely changed because of the decision I made to start thought leadership. And right now in the space, the heavy, like the who's who in my industry approach me now because I've built these powerful platforms, and I want you to be able to do the same thing because I know, like, firsthand the impact and the changes it's made on my life. I just want you to do the same thing because it's pretty freaking cool. All right, I have to watch the F-bombs on YouTube. So anyways, without further ado, that's a little background on how, you know, how I started approaching this and how I basically went from doing a podcast in a spare room with a pretty crappy webcam to now running this huge conference, and we'll be breaking down all the different steps. All right, so this is for you if you are a total beginner. This is for you if you've tried to launch a podcast or another thought leadership platform and you failed. But it's not your fault though, because there's no manual for doing this stuff. If you have a thought leadership platform running already, this is definitely for you because we're going to scale that thing up. And then if you're looking to launch subsequent platforms to scale. So maybe you're running a podcast, you want to launch a YouTube channel. You're running a podcast, you want to launch a live event. You're running a podcast, you want to launch a TV show even. Whatever it is, this is definitely for you. Now, you might be wondering if you're brand new, if you're tuning on Facebook and you have no idea who this guy is. I kind of talked a little bit about it. My name's Seth. I'm a 15-year real estate veteran now. TV show. We talked about the investment podcast, and I'm also the CEO of a company called CPI Capital. I'm the founder of the multifamily conference. So like I said, it was basically in the middle of a pandemic. Everything was shut down, especially here in Canada. Everything was shut down for a very long time. And it was insane. But we pulled it off. So we've had now Kevin O'Leary on stage. Alex Rodriguez was excellent. Grant Cardone, Uncle G was on stage. We've had some very, very successful people at the conference, people who I never thought I would be able to meet, but now we have them on stage. And now for next year, we have two really solid people who are coming because of the platform we've built. So it just connects you with so many cool people. And here's some cool pictures here. So we run a pretty good show, and it would be awesome. So I see Kelly. Kelly's mentioning she hosted a conference this year and she'd like to grow her attendance. Well, you're in the right spot because this is exactly what we're covering today. Even on the podcast side. So with the podcast, when I first started, Brian Rose, this guy, he lives in England. He's an ex-banker in the US. He moved over there. He runs a podcast called London Real. Now, this is going back in the day. So his focus has changed a little bit now in terms of the type of content he produces. But back in the day, he was having amazing conversations with people from all over the world. And I felt he was a top podcaster guy. So I flew over, visited him, saw his studio, got to sit in the chair. We had a little chat. And because I wanted to learn from one of the best people out there. So Brian was pretty cool. He was pretty gracious in terms of opening things up and answering questions and basically giving me the inside scoop on how he runs this thing. And so the big thing I want to touch on, just to kick things off today, is we are in a constant battle with the market that wants to commoditize us and lower our prices, lower our value, and undermine what we're doing. Because if you think about it, the market, an average business, an average operation is going to break even. And the lower tier, the bottom half is going to lose money, and the upper half figures out how to make a profit. So the market's always trying to pull us down and commoditize us. But what is the one thing that we have as an advantage over the market that can really increase our value and allow us to run a successful business? Well, it's our thoughts and our ideas, right? So it's really like, think of it this way. So the market's, it's like the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, but it's on steroids. So 5% reap all the rewards and 95% are left to battle it out. So if we're competing in a marketplace that wants to commoditize us, the only thing we have to fight against that is our ideas, because our ideas are unique. You have your own personal experience that nobody else can replicate. And that's valuable because you have a special insight, a certain insight that nobody else can do. That is what makes you unique in the marketplace. And that's what allows you to stand out. My experience is, and with everything I've done, make me unique. It's not like I'm selling oil, which can be replicated all over the place, right? I have my own special formula, so to speak, that I can use then to take into the marketplace through my thought leadership platform. And the market can't commoditize me because I'm the only one. So I'm unique. I have that value. So you can do the same thing. So based on your experiences, your thought processes, how you approach life, how you approach the thing in your business, don't be a barrel of oil that people can sell, buy, and trade all the time. Form something unique, like figure out that idea. And that's what we're going to be walking through and building out as we go through all the different exercises. Once you build this out, you will be very, very, you won't be pulled down and commoditized like everything else. So like I said, your biggest weapon is your brain, right? So it's your ideas, your frameworks, your opinions, your values. This is what we can bring to the battle in the marketplace, the royal rumble of commoditization. So what is thought leadership? Because I've thrown that word around a couple of times, thought leadership. What does it really mean? Well, I actually pulled out the dictionary definition of thought leadership. So this is what Random House says. So thought leadership is a person or organization that is a recognized authority in a particular field and whose innovative ideas influence and guide others. So this again, really dives into the ideas part. It's innovative ideas that influence and guide others. So as you're building out your thought leadership platform, you need to focus on influencing and guiding others with your unique ideas. And that is the secret sauce to building something really incredible. So like, for example, the TV show we had a different angle on it than what everybody else was doing. That worked really well. With the conference, we have a different angle that we're working that nobody else is doing. Like that makes it really, really unique. And that's what really amplifies your success as you start scaling out. So why thought leadership? So having a thought leadership platform does a number of different things. A thought leadership platform brings customers to you instead of you chasing customers. A thought leadership platform means deals, whether you're in M&A, real estate, whatever it is, deals come to you. You don't chase after the deals because now you are a thought leader in the space. People come to you. Investors come to you, and partnership opportunities come to you. I have to say, honestly, the partnership side of this equation is probably the most powerful thing. And every single week, we are presented with partnership opportunities now because I built out these thought leadership platforms. If anything will come out of your thought leadership platforms, it will be the partnership opportunities. That is the most valuable thing you can do with this thing. And I'm just astounded at how many opportunities now come our way just because we've built these platforms. So like I'm speaking from personal experience. This will have a dramatic impact on what you're doing with your life and your business. So here's some misconceptions, right? And this is what I had too. I remember back when I was told that I should start a podcast and do this. I was like, yeah, it's not going to work. Like I don't know how to talk. I don't even listen to podcasts. Like I launched a podcast without ever having listened to a podcast. So I had some of these misconceptions. So I thought you had to be a celebrity figure to succeed. Right? We see celebrities all the time. They launch a podcast, they get millions of people overnight. I thought you had to be that kind of person to actually run something successfully. Well, that wasn't the case. I thought you needed to have achieved tremendous success to actually be successful. When I started the podcast, I basically lost everything. I had something good, lost it, started the podcast again, and started rebuilding. I wasn't that guy at that point. I thought you needed to have a whole Rolodex of successful people that you could invite on the show. I literally started with zero, and I'll tell you some stories in a little bit on just how crazy it was. I thought you needed to have media or production experience, especially with the podcast. How do you edit a podcast? Well, I figured it out in about 10 minutes. So don't let that hold you back from doing this kind of stuff, because with technology now, it's insane. Like you can do it so easily. I thought you needed a massive team to actually run this. Yeah, you can build a team, but to start off, you can do this thought leadership stuff on your own. It's really easy to do. I thought it was complicated. It's not. And I thought it was expensive, and it's really not. You can actually host your podcast for like $12 a month. It's pretty cheap. Okay, so we're going to run through an exercise right now called Define Your Vision. So this is where I want you to take out some pen and paper and leave some comments. Let me know in the comments on whichever platform you could be watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you are. Let me know as we go through this workshop. So we're going to basically build out your entire vision for where you want to go right now with your platform. And then this will make a whole lot of sense once we move on to the next stages and we start adding some meat to the bones. So the first thing is, what is the primary mission you want to accomplish with your thought leadership platform? What is the primary mission you want to accomplish with your thought leadership platform? So a couple of examples, like could it be bringing financial education to the masses, right? Could it be bringing business education to the masses? That's Alex Ramosi. Could it be getting messages to underserved communities? I don't care what it is, because we have people on here from all sorts of different industries. But really think about, what is the primary mission of your thought leadership platform? What is the mission you want to accomplish? Put that in the chat, whichever platform you are, and we can go through and start doing that. But what is the primary mission? So as you're thinking about that, I'll run through my primary mission right now with the stuff we're doing, and we're going even bigger with some stuff. So with me, I want to be able to help 100 million people understand how real estate can help make them financially free. So that's my goal. That's my mission, to help 100 million people understand real estate investing, and so they can use it. So Jimmy solved the need for housing and make a lot of money while we were doing it. So that's awesome. But I'm going to challenge you, Jimmy, right now, is that's more like a business thing, making a lot of money. But what is the mission of your platform? Bring awareness to my company. That's amazing, August. Yeah. So Jimmy, I want to challenge you. So don't make a lot of money. It's like, how are you going? Like, what's the mission that's going to, like, money's going to come down the road? But for your mission, like, what is that? Are you going to help? Let's say, people who are think that stocks are the way to go, or who have invested in RSPs, since you're Canadian, right? RSPs for years. Are you going to help them realize that there's a better way to retire? That kind of stuff. Do you think that religion is a must in business? I don't think so. But I don't know. That's an interesting question. Salvage people from power sale. Okay. Yeah, bring property education to the permanent makeup industry. That's awesome, Kelly. Yeah, that's great. Change attitudes and behaviors of people by influencing them. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So yeah, we're on the right track here. Okay. So once we have that mission figured out, now what is the long-term vision, right? So we've got the mission. So for me, like, just my personal experience, my mission is to help 100 million people understand real estate investing so they can use it to better their life. Empower females in real estate. Deanna, awesome. That's great. So now what's the vision? So what does that look like? So now think of yourself like on stage in front of like 5,000 people, a podcast with 1 million downloads. Like, what does success look to you? Like, what does it look like to you at that point? So let's say you've achieved that goal. Just think about, like, what does it look like? What's the big vision? What are we working towards? So for me, our vision in 4 years, we're going to have 10,000 people at my conference. That's what we're working towards right now. So everything we're doing is leading up to that. If it's a TV show you want to do, like, how many viewers? Is it nationally syndicated? If it's a radio show, is it nationally syndicated? This kind of stuff. So once you figure that out, put that in the chat, and we'll go through a couple of examples. But everybody here is off to a great start that I've seen so far. That's awesome. So what is the big vision? What's that at the end of the day? What's the best case scenario? 1,000 sustainable units to solve the need for housing. That's great, Jimmy. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then we'll work on 10xing that for you. Then we'll be talking about 10,000 units. That's great. Awesome. Cool. So once we figure out the vision, now let's focus on the values. So the values really guide us. And honestly, I used to think this whole value thing was all a bunch of fluff. But the more I've been surrounded by some very, very successful people, the more I realize that it's actually true. Oh, it's Sandeep here. My introduction to mansion, including electric bikes, electric vehicles in my private jet. Oh, that's cool. That's long term. Okay, cool. So like with the whole value thing, I used to think that, the companies who had like brand values, I thought it was a bunch of hocus pocus. But I've actually flipped the other way, and now it's really important to me. So now I want you to think of 4 words that really resonate with you, that align with your vision, with what you want to do, right? So we're going to think of values. Now I'm going to share mine, just to kickstart things and really fill things in. So the first thing is challenge. So challenge is a big one for us, and for myself and my company. So when we're looking to launch something new, we always run it through these 4 values that we have. So I want you to list 4 values that you have. So challenge with us is we always want to challenge ourselves and grow. So if it seems easy, we're not challenging ourselves. Not like if we're not like puckering up and we're like, oh crap, I'm not sure if we can do this, we're not going big enough. So it challenges us to go bigger. Boldness is a big one. We want to do things that everybody else is scared or chicken to do, because that's the only way we grow, and that's the only way we stand out. So with our big conference, we could run a 100-person event like everybody else does, or we could go big and get 1,000 people. So we went big. So that was being bold. Legacy. Legacy is a big one for us. So we're building a legacy for not only ourselves, but everybody we touch. So we want to help, if somebody's listening to the TV show, help them build a legacy. If somebody comes into our conference, I want to help them build a legacy. So that's really important. And then we have excellence. We want to do things to a really high standard. So with our event, that's our thought leadership platform, our main one right now. We want to do things to the highest standards. So we bring in the best production people. We bring in top speakers. Like we want to be better than everybody else. That's what we have. So just think about it. Think about the four values that are really important to you. So Gideon, yeah, educate and share knowledge in real estate for newcomers. That's awesome. So what are 4 words? Rocky, great vision. So my vision is to help female immigrants, to educate them practically for real estate investment. That's awesome, because that is a great niche, and that's going to pay off really well when we move into the next thing to actually build this thing out. So Kelly, network, education, innovation, brand awareness. Okay, I'm going to challenge you right now, Kelly. So that's a good start. But those words like brand awareness, that's an effect of doing this. I want you to come up with 4 words that you can kind of use as a filter for ideas. So for instance, with mine is boldness, challenge, legacy, and excellence. So whenever we're looking to launch something, they have to hit those 4 components. So brand awareness, that's an outcome of doing this. So I want you to change brand awareness, Kelly, to something else. Jasmine, remove barriers to knowledge in real estate investing. Not everything needs to be a $20,000 course. Yeah, that's true, Jasmine. So that's awesome. So basically, you're bringing knowledge to the masses that they can actually use. August here, honesty and integrity, continuing learning and education, continuing improvement, hard work, achievement, compliance, transparency. Awesome. That's a great start. Jasmine, transparency, accountability, collaboration, moving forward together. Yeah. So Jasmine, I want to challenge you to get a different word for the moving forward together. I think you can find something else, but transparency, accountability, collaboration, those are great. That's awesome. Everybody's on the right track right now. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So once we figure out those values, like I said, we really use those to act as a guide in terms of building out what we're doing. So if you're launching a podcast, you want to run it through those. Like, are you challenged with myself? Are you challenging yourself? Are you building a legacy? That kind of thing. Deanna, real power will create a network of women where no woman is left behind. We are an inclusive community, and we rise and support each other. Awesome. That's great. Cool. So Jeff here is honesty, credibility, helpful, thinking big. Great. Jimmy, excellence, innovation, collaboration, sustainability. Bang on, Jimmy. That's awesome. Okay, great. We're on the right track right now. So what we're going to do now is I want you to think of the change or the impact you want to make. So some of you right now are on the right track, but I want you to think about the impact and the change you want to affect in that space. So if you're in, the real estate space, we've got a bunch of real estate people on right now. What does that look like? What change do you want to bring to the marketplace? If you're in the healthcare space, what change do you want to bring to that space through your thought leadership community? So we've had a couple of examples of bringing education and helping people understand that industry. So real estate investing, for example, what is it? For one of our platforms, it's how do we actually help? I want to help events that are stuck, and who don't get any help, anything like that. We want to help them scale through giving them a proven system. So we want to be able to, through our thought leadership platform, teach people and show them that there's a way to scale and they don't have to stay stuck. That's an example. Okay, so think about the real change you want to bring to that industry. And what does it look like? That industry or community of people. Hormozy is a great example because he's crushing the internet right now. But he wants to, bring people. He wants to bring business education to the masses. So, and he wants to change that because a lot of things are behind paywalls right now, and he just wants to provide it for free. So that's the big change. He wants to make education more accessible to entrepreneurs starting out. So let me know, just put it in the chat, like what is the big change? Like what's the big turning point you want to bring to your industry, whatever it is. Just let me know what that looks like for the change. Awesome. And then, for myself, each platform is a little bit different. Through the conference, everything kind of works together. But, for myself, I want to bring that education to 100 million people. And I want to, I feel our education system does a poor job at teaching people about finances and how it really works. I feel that our current system and options for people is poor. Everybody goes to their bank and invests in whatever it is because that's what we think we're supposed to do. I used to do that, and that's not the right way. So I think by fighting those trends and what common sense is, and really showing people that you can make a big impact through real estate like that, that's the big change I'm trying to affect in the space. So Deanna, we want women to use their choices and voices. That's good alliteration, to create a lifestyle of their own design with a portfolio to support it. We want to put more women into all sizes of stages both live and online. Beautiful. That's amazing. Accessibility. So Jasmine, yeah, 100%. Cool. Okay, so if you're not quite finished on that, make a note of the 3 questions you have to answer. So question number 1, what's the primary mission and the vision you want to behind your thought leadership platform? Then what are the values that you're going to use to guide what you're doing? That's really important, and everything we run through that. And then what change or impact you want to make within the industry or community. So once you have those 3, that's really defining the vision, because we can't really build a platform out until you kind of know what you want to do with the platform. So Jeff, right here, educate others to be successful and be independently wealthy through real estate. Bang on. That's awesome. So once you answer those 3 questions, you're ready to rock. If you're still working on it, that's okay. We can always come back to it later on, but that's what you want to do first, okay? So now let's get into what we're going to be covering for the rest of the day. And I call this the 3 Ds of thought leadership. And we have dissect, differentiate, and distribute. And the E got knocked down because it's small. And then I have a bonus D at the bottom. So we really have the 4 Ds. And this is what we're going to use to really break down and build out our thought leadership platforms today. And then tomorrow we're going to go really granular in terms of like podcasts, all the stuff that I've done. And I can share a whole lot of lessons I've learned along the way as we've tried building this stuff out. Okay, so we've got dissect, we've got differentiate, and we have distribute. So step number 1, we have to dissect. So now we have our vision. Now let's start dissecting the space so we figure out where we fit in to everything. So let me tell you a story about this guy. So this guy is Chris Gray. He's an Australian real estate investor. Really cool guy, really cool guy. And I had watched him for years on a show. He had a show on Sky News, and I actually modeled my TV show after his TV show because I enjoyed his format and the way he ran it. So I'd watched this guy for years, a very successful Aussie investor. And I was watching a show, and he was doing a really good job with it. And when I started the podcast, he was one of the first guests I interviewed, and I thought there was no way I would ever talk with this guy. More on that later on. But what I did with Chris was, when I wanted to launch the TV show, I studied him. I dissected everything he did. So I went on and I watched all 4 seasons of his show, from the very first episode he ever did all the way through to the most current episode at the time. And I was able to pick up differences in terms of what he was doing. He changed his approach from the first season to the third season, and from the second season to the fourth season. The way he interacted with guests, he slightly modified. The type of guests he brought on, modified. But when I dissected everything he was doing, I was able to notice why he was doing it. I was able to pick up on the small nuances and changes, and that gave me better insight into how he approached his show and what his producers were doing. And then I took those lessons and applied it to my own thought leadership platform. So this is what we're going to focus on right now in terms of dissecting the top leaders in the space. And I was so glad. Just a quick story here with Chris. I emailed him when I first launched my podcast. So I had no podcast, no episodes. I hadn't done an episode. I think it was right after Christmas or right before Christmas. It was in December sometime. And I emailed him thinking there's no way this guy's going to reply. And within a couple of days, he's like, sure, yeah, I'd love to come on your podcast. I hadn't even recorded an episode yet. And here's this guy, very successful, well-known guy in the space. And he's giving me the time of day, and he gave me 60 minutes to interview him. Now, if you watch that episode, I'm horrible. I stumble over my questions. I'm very awkward. The lighting is really bad on the video because I didn't know anything about lighting. But the main thing is I did it. And I was blown away that a guy who I actually looked up to and respected would give me the time. And here's the thing that you'll find too is, the more successful the person, yeah, their time's really limited, but I have found the more successful the person, the more willing they are to give back and actually give people some time if they're able to, because they understand what it's like to be at the bottom, just starting out. So even when people email me about podcast requests and stuff, if they're just starting out, I know exactly what it's like. All I'm looking for from them is that they've thought about it and they're just not blowing smoke, that they're serious about it, and then I'll give them some time. So Jeff, can you be my first guest? That's awesome. Yeah, well, if you send me a broken down proposal and you've given it some thought, absolutely. And the main thing is I did it. Powerful. Yeah. The messy action, 100%. Now, by the end of today, we're going to have this whole thing built out. So all you have left to do is to take the action. I didn't have this process. I have the benefit now of hindsight and looking back with 2020 vision and being able to actually build out a process to do this all over again if I had to. When I started, I just kind of learned on the fly. So you guys have a step up. So we're going to model the best. So the very first thing we're going to do right now is find the top 5 leaders in your niche. So, whoever it is. So if you're in the healthcare industry, who are the top 5 leaders in that niche? So maybe you're a brain surgeon, right? And you want to change something, the brain surgeon sphere. I don't know anything about that. But let's say there's 5 thought leaders, the top 5 guys that people go to hear about their opinions and stuff in the brain surgeon space. This is who you want to find. Or in the real estate space, who are the top 5 people in your industry? Maybe you're doing Airbnbs or multifamily or mobile home parks or industrial. Who are the top 5 people in that space that people actually want to listen to? This is what you want to do, and you're going to model them. So you're going to ask a whole bunch of questions, and we're going to pause because I want you to think about this. Now, you're not going to be able to do everything right now because we'd be here for 6 hours, but I want you to write down these questions and give it some thought right now. So post some comments in the comment section. So what media do they use? Do most of them write blogs? Do most of them do YouTube? Do most of them have a podcast? Do most of them run events? because you're going to start seeing similarities and reasons why they do what they do. And every niche is a little bit different. So look at the 5 top people in that space and then start figuring out what media they use. How are they getting their message out there? And this is going to give you some tips for the thought leadership platform you're going to decide to build. So for example, in real estate, for example, you've got people who have real estate blogs, but who are the top 5 people in your niche for, let's say, multifamily, right? A lot of them will have YouTube channels. A lot of them will run events. A lot of them will. So you're trying to connect all the dots and fill this in. So put in the chat, like for your niche, for your industry, because we have a whole bunch of different people on here. Let me know who are the top 5 people you would pick. So let's start with that. Who are the top 5 people? So let's give it a minute and figure out the top 5 people in your industry, in your space. I'll give you a minute to write those down and I'll get a drink. Who are the top 5 people in your space? Seth Ferguson, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Dakota. Writing books, good. Okay, cool. So once you have your top 5 people, what media do they use? Yeah, everybody's got a book. Everybody's an Amazon bestseller these days. Chad King, okay. That's awesome. So what media are they using? Are they using YouTube, podcasts, blogs, radio, TV? Maybe you're a real estate agent, right? And you want to start a thought leadership platform for real estate agents. Yeah, Grant Cardone's a big one. Who are the top 5 guys there? That's awesome. Now, once you have that, once you figured out what media they use, so webinars. Yeah, so Jasmine, I would argue that a webinar is more of a marketing type of asset rather than a thought leadership asset. So with webinars, Jasmine, I wouldn't include that. You're looking for more like blog, YouTube, podcast, TV show, radio show, event, that kind of thing. A webinar would be more of a marketing. Yeah, real estate radio guys, yep. Good, Charles. That's awesome. Newsletters. Yep. Okay. So once we figure out what media they're using, now you want to write down how often do those people publish. Yeah. So Jasmine, yeah. I wouldn't say Instagram Reels are more of a marketing function. So I see where you're going with this. So with thought leadership, what you'll do, and we'll be breaking this down later, but let's say I have a podcast, right? I'm going to start making marketing assets to give my podcast visibility. So then I will splice up parts of my podcast and then put that on Instagram to act as a marketing function. But the thought leadership platform itself is the podcast. So Jasmine, I want you to think about podcast, blog, YouTube, whatever it is. A radio show, TV show, event, that kind of stuff. Cool. Awesome. Good job, Jimmy. Okay, great. So now how often are these people publishing based on the media? So maybe we'll use Grant Cardone as an example because he's pretty well known across multiple industries, right? So Grant has a YouTube. Like he's really big on YouTube. He also has, let's use Grant back in the day, okay? Good example. So Grant had a radio show that was local to Florida, right? That was his thought leadership platform. Then he moved it to YouTube. So now he had a radio show and then he would record the radio show at the same time. And so he was running both. So those would be his initial thought leadership platforms. So with that, those would be the media. Then how often do they publish? Like he was basically running on YouTube every single day. Now, what you're going to find is that all the top 5 people in the space, they're going to do things very similarly because it works. So you're going to find that there's a cadence for your industry or niche, whatever you're in, that the top people have figured out. And the reason they've been able to figure and the reason they're the top people is they've been able to figure it out along the way. So you're paying very close attention to what they're doing. So if they're publishing a blog, how often do they publish their blog? Is it once a week? Is it twice a week? Is it 3 times a week? Is it once a month? If they're publishing YouTube videos, are they publishing once a week, once a day? Are they doing 3 shorts a day? If they're running events, do they run events once a year? Is it once a month, once a week? That kind of thing. And you're going to have this column. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for your 5 people and figure out what they're doing and write down how often they're publishing. This is going to be a huge clue into exactly what you have to do to model. Okay, so once you figured out how often they publish, now you have to figure out what do they actually talk about. So they're going to be talking about different subjects, right? Are they current events in your space and industry? Are they talking about more evergreen content? Do they have one idea they really focus on? You really want to figure out what they're talking about. Are they talking about in real estate? Are they talking about financing? Are they talking about all types of real estate? Are they talking about one type of real estate? You really want to figure this out. And then what format do they use? So with media, they could be doing YouTube videos, but are they doing talking head? Are they doing infographic videos? Are they doing narrated videos with animations? It's going to vary depending on the industry and the person. You really want to figure out what these guys are doing and then model it. And then what format, and then figure out the tone. So what tone are they using? Is it quirky? Is it a funny kind of thing? Are they being very serious? Are they trying to, is the tone like a parent educating a child? Are they more high level, sophisticated type of tone? Like what are they doing? And chances are the top 5 people in the space are going to be doing something very similar because it works best for that industry. So the clues are already there. It's just with Chris Gray with his TV show, he had already done the format. I just had to model what he was doing. And that got me a lot further ahead in terms of my success. And then what do they offer? So, everybody has a thought leadership platform. They'll have an offer of some sort. So are they offering a training program? What's their lead magnet? Are they offering tickets to free tickets to an event? Are they offering education, access to videos, access to interviews? What are they offering on their platforms? So this is going to take a little bit of work, but you're figuring out what media the top 5 people use, how often they publish, what do they talk about, what format they're using, the tone that they're using, how they're actually interacting with people, and what do they actually offer. You got to answer those 5 questions. So just to give me an idea in the chat, is everybody following along at this point? Do you have any questions with any of these questions? I shouldn't have phrased it that way. Do you have any questions with any of these points? Let me know, and we'll go through them right now before we move on to the next slide. So Sandeep's following along. That's awesome. That's great. It is a lot to think about, but this is going to be a lot of homework for you to complete tonight before we move on tomorrow. Okay, so Sandy's feeling good. Is everybody else feeling good? Because we got a ton of people making sense so far. That's awesome. Yeah, we have a ton of people on all the different platforms right now, which is awesome. Okay, makes sense. Okay, cool. Do you mean the tone is in the tone of their voice or how they communicate? Good question. So I mean the overall tone in terms of how they're presenting the content, right? So I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm talking about real estate investing. I could have a funny kind of, entertaining kind of tone. So the tone of my content is lighthearted and it's really funny. I'm cracking jokes all the time. I'm making it really fun versus a more serious tone where I'm speaking more business-like and it's really business kind of framed. Or is my tone, am I being really polished with my words? Is that person being more sophisticated? They've leveled up their words and they're speaking to a higher educated audience, or are they breaking it down to a grade 3 level so it's more accessible to more people? That's the type of tone I'm talking about. So are they being really elevated? Are they talking to the masses? Are they being funny? Are they being quirky? Are they cracking jokes? Are they being more serious? That kind of thing. And chances are those top 5 people are doing something very similar in terms of how they approach it, because that's what works best in that niche. Warm and fuzzy. Yeah. Warm and fuzzy is a good one. So that's awesome. Okay. So everybody's feeling good about that. That's going to be some homework for you tonight, because when we finish up today, you're going to do this. And then tomorrow we're going to be going really nitty gritty with everything. Okay, so once you've answered those, you're going to now track all the similarities, because like I've been saying this a ton, but like the proof is in the pudding. The reason why these 5 people have got to the top of their niche or industry is because they've perfected the system. They've tried a whole bunch of things that didn't work. And for that audience, what they're doing works best. And that's why they've risen to the top. So that's why we're going for the leaders first, because they've already figured it out, like made all the mistakes, all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to model what they're doing. So if all the people at the top are doing something, there's a reason why they're doing it. It's because it works. So if the top 5 people in the space are running events, well, chances are it works for the space. If the top 5 people are speaking, or have a very serious, sophisticated tone, and they're speaking to a high-level audience, maybe for brain surgeons, that's because that's what works best, because a layperson won't be able to understand brain surgery. So like there's a reason why they're doing the approach, because chances are, because for our stuff, we test so much stuff. It's pretty crazy. Oh, and then now we have a fake person trying to sell Bitcoin. So what happens when you have thought leadership platforms and you actually have an audience is people will try and steal your name. And we have these Bitcoin people all the time doing that. So it happens. So there's a reason why it works. So you really want to take like a scientific approach to this kind of thing and really analyze it. So, maybe you're a big fan of, Richard Branson and with his platforms, or Robert Kiyosaki, whoever it is, whoever your people are in your space, really analyze it, take a scientific approach and break them down, dissect them, and really figure out, well, what they're doing, why they're doing it, how often they do it, that kind of thing. Okay. So we're going to look at a couple of key points. Now that you've broken them down and you've dissected that person, we're going to, Jasmine, let me answer your question first. So why does it appeal to your potential audience to follow the top 5 crowd and not stand out by doing? Good question, Jasmine. Yeah. Before we add the uniqueness part that we're going to get to, we have to understand what works best. Right? So there's going to be a general tone, a general angle that works best in your audience. You have to know that first, because chances are the top 5 people have tried the unique things, and some things stuck better than others. So they've already proven the road for you. And now later on in today, we're going to figure out the unique angle you will take on that. But with everything, it's kind of like with, I'll just use with phones right now, right? The operating systems like Apple and Android, everybody uses icons. Like it's kind of the same thing. Like if you open up my phone or anybody's phone, it's all icons, because that's what works best for people. Like everybody tried different things, and then everybody settled on running icons. So everybody runs that. Now there's unique ways to do it, Jasmine, which is where you're going, but the base is there. So we're finding the base in your industry, in your niche, if that makes sense. So now we're going to look at each of the 5 people you've outlined. And now we're really going to figure out what makes them unique. So we looked at similarities, like what are all 5 people doing? But now we're going to figure out what makes this person unique and stand out among the top 5. Right? Because there's going to be things that they do differently than everybody else, but then there's going to be that underlying foundation that is the same. So what are they doing differently? And what stands out about them? And why? And what attracted you to? Oh, there's a typo. What attracted you to them in the first place? So they're all copying Hermosi. yeah, Greg. I saw a comment which was hilarious after Hormosi's last book launch, and it was like great. Now every 19-year-old is going to be running a free course offer on XYZ kind of thing. It was kind of funny. So that's pretty true. Somebody mentioned Grant Cardone as an example, right? Most people know him in the sales space or in the real estate space. So what does Grant do differently? Well, right off the bat, his publishing schedule far exceeds everybody else in the space, right? So like right off the bat, like that's what makes him unique. What stands like he's abrasive, like he gets in your face. He's polarizing, right? He's very opinionated, so that makes him stand out. But what about his opinions? So really niche down. Like what is he saying that makes him polarizing, right? And then obviously he has a jet. He uses his jet and that stuff to build social proof and to catch your attention. And what attracted you to him in the first place? Is it because of the way he talks? Is it because he's flashy? Is it because he grinds all the time? Is it like what about him attracts you? Because chances are, if whatever attracted you to that person, it's like other people are attracted to that person for the exact same reason. So now we're getting into the whole like unique selling proposition, like your USP. So whoever it is in your space, what are they doing differently? What stands out about them? And why are you attracted to them in the first place? So go through for all 5 people now on your list and answer these questions. What makes them unique? What stands out about them? What attracted you to them in the first place? So let me know in the comments right now, like what are some things you're finding just off the, like Jimmy mentioned Grant's helicopter, Greg, they're all copying Hermosi, which is going to happen. But let me know, like, what are the unique things about some of the people that you have on your list that really stand out uniquely? All right, let me know. Everybody's working away right now, so that's awesome. Cool. Okay, so once you've modeled the best, so I just want you to understand where we're at right now in the process. So we found the top 5 people in the space because they figured out the game. Like they tried things that didn't work. They've made the mistakes. They figured out. That's why they're at the top. We figured out the similarities amongst all of them. So we know what everybody's doing, all the connecting threads that make it, that are the foundation. And now we figured out what makes them unique. So what's their USP, their unique selling proposition? Kelly mentioned they have large podcast followings. Great. So maybe in your space, Kelly, having a podcast is what works best, what resonates. They put out a lot of content. Yeah, 350 content pieces per week, and you learn that from Grant. 100%. And it kind of goes to like Greg too with Gary V. Like Gary's always pushing quantity over quality because his theory is that you get the quality through quantity. 100%. For sure. So once we've modeled these people, now we can do something cool with it. So now we're going to create a consumer avatar of our ideal client. So Jeff Link email list. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow with how we can use our thought leadership platforms to really build those lists out. And there's a huge mistake I made in the first 2 years. That was really silly. So make sure you come tomorrow and we'll talk about email lists. So now we're going to create a consumer avatar of your ideal client. So we figured out what works for the top 5 people in the space. We figured out what makes them unique. We're going to revisit this in a bit, but now we're going to create a consumer avatar of the ideal person we're going after. So we're going to answer a whole bunch of questions. So find a new page, open up a new document, whatever it is, unapologetically themselves. Let me 100%. And that's the one thing, if maybe I'll touch on that a little bit. So what I've learned is that, if you try and be inauthentic to yourself, you burn out really, really quickly. And this happens to a bunch of people. And right now we're in the process of actually hiring a key person on our team in the media space. And this comes up all the time. So, if you're trying to act a certain way that's not natural to you, it's going to tire you out. Like if let's say you're filming 3 TV episodes a day, if you're not being yourself and you're acting, it's tough work to act. That's why the top actors get paid millions of dollars to do it. It's hard work. And then if you're consistently doing it and it's not authentic to you, it's going to drag you down, and it's not going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, just be yourself. And that's the key thing. And, when we're talking about being unique and standing out in the marketplace, and how the market wants to commoditize us, and how our ideas and who we are, make it authentic. Yeah. Like it smells, Deanna, you're bang on. And if you try and act like somebody else, like right now, everybody's trying to be Hormozy, right? like Greg said, everybody's trying to act like Hormozy, but like you just become commoditized, because only Hormozy can really be Hormozy, and then you're just being an imposter, and it's not going to be authentic, and it's not going to land as well. And now you're competing against 100 other people all trying to be like Hormozy. But like if you just be like yourself, there's only one of you. Like you're very unique, and that gives you that uniqueness that we're going to cover in a little bit too. So, and that's why I want you to study the top 5 people, what's unique about them, because they're going to throw in their personalities. Everybody's going to be slightly different in terms of their spin on things. Like study that, because you have to bring that into your thought leadership platform. And we're going to build this out in a bit. So right now, let's think about, we have our mission and who we want to impact, the value system we're going to be running everything through. But now let's think about the actual person that we're speaking to. Because with podcasts, I'll tell you, when you're talking to a camera, it's really easy to just think you're talking to a mass of people, but what you really want to do is talk to one specific person. It's like, even on the TV show, you have a bunch of cameras. You have to be talking to your avatar through the camera, through the lens, and your tone of voice is going to change. The types of questions you're going to ask, how you approach the conversations will change, because you're speaking to a real person, not just at a camera. And that's one of the hardest things to get over, because you're just talking to an inanimate object. But if you can really have a good idea in your head of an avatar, it works so well. So this is what we're going to do. Number 1, who is the consumer? What do they want? Like, what is the goal? Like, what does the consumer want? What is your ideal person who's going to listen to your thought leadership platform, to watch it, to attend something? What do they want out of it? Do they want financial freedom? Like, do they want to solve their health issue? Do they want to have a better connection with their kids? Do they want to save their marriage? Like what's the big pain point? Like, what do they want at the end of the day? And why are they there? Like, why are they listening to your podcast? Why are they listening to a YouTube video? Why are they attending an event? Why are they watching a TV show? Like, why are they there? And what are their dreams? Do they want to be able to retire and pay off their mortgage? Do they want to be able to be pain-free for the first time in 10 years and walk without being hunched over? Do they want to be able to actually have a fulfilling relationship after a bunch of failed relationships? It doesn't matter what space it is or what space you're in, but you really want to get down into what your education, grow their business. Yeah, but go even deeper than that, Kelly. So, but what does grow their business mean for them? Like what's the extension of that? Does that mean, financial freedom? Does that mean passing wealth down to their kids? That's what we really want to get to. So what are their real dreams? So we have business. Yeah, like Kelly said, they want to grow their business, but why? Go a couple steps deeper than that. So, and education, yeah, they want education, but why do they want education? And then what are their biggest challenges right now? So with your avatar, the person you are speaking to through your blog, your podcast, whatever it is, what are they being challenged with? Like, what hurdle do they have to overcome to actually get to the next stage in their journey? So what's their biggest challenge? Is it just lack of knowledge? Like, do they just don't know where to start? Or do they have limiting beliefs? Have they been fed bad information in the past, and now you have to help them re-educate themselves into the right way to do things? All this kind of stuff. Are they maybe for medical stuff? Have they tried a whole bunch of common treatments and nothing's working? So now they have to try a unique way of tackling the issue. What's the big challenge? Do they not have access to healthcare where they are? Like, whatever it is. What's the big challenge? Do they not have money? Whatever it is. and what are their burning questions. So what you're going to find, and we'll walk through this in a bit, what are the burning questions that they must have answered in order to have them achieve success? So let's use real estate, right? So what are the main questions that have to get answered for real estate in order for them to achieve success? So let's say you're a real estate agent right now, or your thought leadership platform is for real estate agents. What are the big questions for real estate agents? Well, how do I find clients? Then once I answer that, well, once I find clients, like how do I actually have them want to work with me? And then once they want to work with me, how do I actually sell the house for more money? Like those are the big main questions that you have to answer for your audience. If it's real estate investing, well, what's the best type of real estate investing to do? What are the best types of assets? What's the best strategy? How do I actually make money from real estate investing? Those are the big questions, the burning questions. And then the big thing, honestly, like this is the most important question: what keeps them up at night? So if they're lying in bed, they're lying in bed with their spouse, like why is their spouse snoring beside them, and why are they still up thinking about this like big fear, this big thing at 3 o'clock in the morning? What's keeping them up at night? Is it not having financial security? So, if they lose their job tomorrow because they're still working a W-2 job, if they lose their job tomorrow, then they can't afford to pay for their kids' education for college or university. Is that a big fear for them? Is it not having control over their time and they stay up at night? Is their big fear never being able to conquer the pain they're experiencing right now? All that kind of stuff. How to pay their mortgage out. Yeah, great example. All these things, like you want to get to the root of the problem. What is the fear? Because with humans, like a lot of marketing is based, like you can have the carrot or the stick, right? You can either have the benefits approach or the fear approach, the pain approach. So and fear, you have a burning building, people will run as fast as they can because they fear that. So having a good understanding of their fear, what's keeping them up at night, will give you great insight into the type of content you can produce with your thought leadership platform, because it's going to catch their attention and it's going to resonate, and they are going to watch it, read it, listen to it, whatever it takes. How to get ahead in life when everything seems doomy and gloomy. Yeah, so be more granular, get deeper than that, Jasmine. So what specifically about that? So why is it doom and gloom? Is it they feel lost with finances, like they don't want to make a financial mistake? Is that what keeps them up at night? Is it is it the fact that they rely on a salary and they can't choose when to take vacation? Like what's really keeping them up? So that's good surface level. Jasmine would now go deeper, then go deeper again with that. Okay, awesome. So at this point, you should have a pretty good idea. And like this doesn't, job layoffs, perfect. Like job security, huge. Credit card debt growing, awesome, Val, right? We're on the right track here. So at this point, you should have a pretty good idea of who your consumer is and what they want, why they're there listening to your platform. What their dreams are, what their biggest challenges are, what their burning questions are that they must get answered, and what's keeping them up at night. This is the blueprint for the rest of your thought leadership platform and the types of stuff you're going to do, all that kind of stuff. So you really want to have this like teed up, have all your T's crossed and I's dotted. So I just want to pause right now and make sure that you're following along. You don't have any questions. If you do have questions, if you're not sure about anything, ask right now, because I want to make sure we're on the right track with everything here. Okay, everybody seems to be doing well. Okay, great. Okay, but wait. So is there? Okay, I have a pro. Okay. Not okay. But wait, so how do I find this stuff? Because you're probably how to promote that. Okay, so you have a credit card. Okay, so you have a special credit card. You want to know how to promote that. Yeah. But that's not really in your avatar, right? So if you're trying to, so Val, if you're trying to promote your credit card, that would be, you would create an item of value, but that's not really, nobody's going to listen to your podcast, for example, because you have a credit card. You're going to want to answer the questions or the burning desires of why somebody who would need a credit card, what's keeping them up at night, not being able to make a payment, like having a rainy day fund. A credit card would be able to do that. Or somebody who's worried about debt, right? Credit card debt growing. Like your offer will tie into your thought leadership platform, but they're not going to like watch your YouTube video because of your credit card offer. It's, you're going to be answering their question, talking about a fear, talking about a challenge they have, right? Yeah, 100%. So how do you actually find out all this stuff? So this is the best way to do it. So remember the top 5 experts we figured out? You're going to go back to those 5 people and you're going to go through everything they've done. And you're going to find some really interesting nuggets in this stuff. So you're going to analyze, who is the content for? The top 5 people in the space, are they talking to beginners? Is their content geared towards intermediate people, or is their content geared towards experts? Chances are the top 5 people in your space are all going to be talking to very much the same audience. So again, if it's brain surgeons, they're probably talking to experts because that's who's listening to it. But if your top 5 people in the space are talking at a beginner level about real estate investing, that's a clue. That probably works best. So just dissect all of their content and really figure out, who are they speaking to? Is it beginners, intermediates, experts, or generally speaking, you're going to have maybe, is it 80% geared towards beginners, 15% towards intermediates, and 5% experts. Maybe they have one piece of content a week that's really geared towards experts, and the rest is beginners and intermediates. You want to catalog this stuff and write it down, because this is your clue into how you want to approach this with your own thought leadership platform. Then you want to read the comment section. So go on their podcast reviews page. You want to read their book reviews. You want to read their YouTube comments, whatever it is. You want to read the comment section because people will ask questions. And this is a great insight into what questions their content is not answering. So if you find a group of people asking the exact same question all the time, chances are there's a window there, because there's an audience that's craving that kind of answer. So this is where we start learning all of this kind of stuff. So read the comment section. What are the comments? Like, are people saying that, oh, I don't understand this kind of stuff? Or, hey, or do they have a lot of questions based on the tone of their content? So maybe somebody has a video where they're outlining a very complicated idea or framework, and they're speaking at an expert or intermediate level, and you have a ton of people commenting, this is above my head. Well, that's a good indication that maybe they need to bring it down a level and speak more at a beginner, more beginner language. Okay, and then we have click on subscriber profiles. So with subscriber profiles, if you're on YouTube or whatever it is, if somebody's a subscriber and they're commenting all the time, well, click on them and see what other channels they have subscribed to, what kind of videos they put out, because you're going to start seeing similarities, and that's going to help teach you about the audience. So if a whole bunch of people comment on somebody's podcast, about a podcast episode somebody's done on their Instagram page, look at everybody commenting and then see who else they're following, and then see what else they're commenting, what their interests are, all that kind of stuff. And this will help you build out a consumer avatar for what they're actually looking like. Because remember, we're dealing with real people. So like, do the research and really comb through this kind of stuff, because the more you dig around in terms of your top 5 people and who's following them, who's subscribed to them, who's commenting, what are they commenting, what other stuff are they watching, this gives you the best insight into how you can build the very best thought leadership platform you have. Okay. And then we have, so you're going to Google fan names. So if you can't click on their subscriber profile, Google them, because chances are something will come up. So, and then you want to learn like what blogs they subscribe to, all that kind of stuff. And then cold outreach. So the best thing to do at this point is you have a whole bunch of people, let's say on Instagram, right? They always comment on this top 5 person's podcast every time they drop an episode. They always have a comment on it. Send them a DM. Be like, hey, listen, like I saw you you love listening to Joe Blow's podcast. So do I. I think the last episode was awesome. Like, just out of curiosity, like what are the podcasts do you listen to? Start a conversation, like learn more about them. And this is customer research. This is market research. In real estate, we talk about market research all the time. Well, you're researching your market now. So again, you go back to your top 5 experts. Who's the content for? Beginner, intermediate, expert. Like, what level are they speaking at? Read the comment section, go through that, click on subscriber profiles. You want to Google fan names, like look people up, and then you want to do some cold outreach. So just send messages to people. Hey, I saw you love this person's blog. So do I. Hey, I saw you love this person's YouTube channel. You comment, like you've commented on every video. That's awesome. Like, I watch this guy every day. Whatever it is, start a conversation back and forth and ask questions. Like, hey, like, like what kind of questions are you looking for? Like, where are you at in terms of your journey building financial freedom, if that's your niche? Or, hey, if it's debt consolidation, hey, like, what are your biggest challenges with debt consolidation? I'm trying to learn this stuff too. This is market research, and you won't go wrong with it. Okay. So, any questions on this right now before we move on? Is everybody good? It looks like we're good. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Deanna mentioned, so great idea to see other inspiration found an area of value by putting on a special session around Melton Wallace, and it created great engagement, deeper connections, which is a goal of ours. Yeah, 100%. So Deanna, what we'll do, yeah, you're bang on. So you're going to do your market research and just get a general idea of where people are at. And then, yeah, you can definitely test with that kind of stuff, the webinars, all that kind of thing. But you're bang on with that. And then you'll see it's kind of, so we can get more granular with it tomorrow. We definitely will. In terms of, you can test out ideas if you already have a mailing list. You'll send out like 5 different emails to your list with different hooks on it, with highlighting different issues and problems. And you're going to find one pops way more than the other 5. And that's a great guide into, like we should double down and create content centered around this idea. So 100%. So by modeling the top 5 and creating a consumer avatar, you're going to have a proven framework, because the top 5 people have already shown you exactly what's working. That's why they're at the top, because it works. So they've already proven the framework for you, and you just have to model it. You're going to know what you have to include in your platform and your messages, right? So the common threads between all 5, if they're all hitting the same points as a foundation, you need to hit all 5 points as a foundation, because that's what's working. And then you're going to know your customer, their dreams, their challenges, their fears, all that kind of stuff. So at this point, once you've got here, you know everything you have to do. You've got an idea on what's working, what the framework is, what you have to include in everything, and then what's, your avatar, who you're speaking to, their customer, their dreams, and their challenges. Okay, so the goal is to be able to answer a question or a statement like this. So it goes, my audience is interested in blank. So it's like, my audience is interested in decreasing their debt, and they want to achieve financial freedom or zero debt, whatever it is for this example. But their biggest problem is high interest credit cards or revolving debt or never getting ahead of their payments. That's their biggest problem. This is a generic kind of problem statement, but like once you're able to answer this shows you that you're on the right track for your avatar and understanding what they're really looking for. So right now, I would love to see some examples of everybody following on. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, whatever it is, put in the chat. Let me know, like, what is your statement right now? So, and we're just working on this, but just give me a rough idea. This could be a rough draft. So my audience is interested in blank, and they want to achieve their goal blank, but their biggest problem is this. Put that in the chat, and it would be great to see a couple ideas from everybody as you're working on this. So I'll give you an example to help you out. So my audience is interested in multifamily investing, real estate investing, whatever it is, and they want to do their first deal. But their biggest problem is they have no experience or track record, right? That could be a problem statement for an audience for thought leadership. Or my audience is interested in mergers and acquisitions or buying their first business, and they want to get their first M&A deal done, but their biggest problem is they don't have any deal flow and they have no idea how businesses are valued. So here's Kelly. My audience is interested in permanent makeup training, and they want to achieve master level, but their biggest problem is lack of proper education. Yeah, excellent, right? They don't know what tools to use. They don't know what techniques to use, that kind of thing. Awesome. Good job, Kelly. And as you learn more and more about your audience, you can really tailor this statement. But if you're at the point right now and you're not able to complete the statement, that is a good example or a good sign that you have to go back and you haven't done enough research. So Val, my audience is interested in consolidation of the growing debt and how to help them in this area. Okay. So Val, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. So your audience is interested in consolidating their growing debt. Great. And they want to, and what's their goal? They want to get out of debt. They want to have zero debt probably, right? So you'll add that in. But their biggest problem is that's what you're missing now. So I want you to figure out their goal, and then their biggest problem is like high interest, maybe high interest payments. Jimmy, my audience is interested in investing in sustainable buildings and they want to achieve financial freedom, but their biggest problem is they don't know how to get started. Yeah, they don't know how to get started. They're stuck in traditional investments with the bank, that kind of stuff. Good job. Sandeep, on building wealth and they want to achieve financial and freedom, and their biggest problem is knowing where and how to invest. Yeah, so they don't know the options. They don't know where to start, that kind of thing. Awesome. Okay, we're on the right track with all this kind of stuff. And you'll start tweaking this as you get to learn more and more about your audience. Okay, so to recap right now. So we're going to dissect what the top performers are doing, find similarities, and then model it. All right, that's the first D for what we just covered. So now we're going to move on to step number 2, which is differentiate. This kind of goes back to what Jasmine was saying in terms of, hey, like, don't we want to stand out? Well, we got to figure out what's working for everybody because there's a general base, and now we're going to build upon that. So I think most people, just put in the chat if you've read or if you know the blue ocean, red ocean strategy. Have you heard of that before? I just want to get an idea on, like how familiar people are with that. Just put a yes or no for red ocean or blue ocean. Okay, okay. So I'll just give you a brief overview. Great series of books. But basically the theory is what happens, a red ocean is where a bunch of companies and people compete. So just think sharks, right? They're all competing for the same thing, and they start eating each other, they're fighting, and the ocean turns red with blood because they're cannibalizing themselves. That's a problem because you're in a very competitive environment. You're going to get eaten. You're going to get bitten by another shark. You're just going to fight. The blood turns the blood is turning the water red. What you want to do as a business or as an entrepreneur is you want to create your own blue ocean. The blue ocean, there's nice rainbow fish. There's a beach, but there's no competition. It's not filled with sharks eating each other, and this is where you really set apart yourself apart and create that unique USP, that unique selling proposition. So we don't want to be fighting it out with sharks. Remember at the very start of this workshop today, I talked about how the market wants to commoditize us and pull us down. If you're just like everybody else, you're fighting with the other sharks. So if you're selling oil, that's a commoditized business. You're fighting with the 1,000 other oil producers. Like, there's no uniqueness. But if you're able to create your own blue ocean, which is a unique pool for you to work in, that's where you can really expand and have a whole lot of success. So we'll break this down here. So if you compete in the red ocean, you'll become a commodity, or shark food, right? It turns red, or alligator food. I'm not sure if everybody saw, but in Florida, a lady got eaten by an alligator yesterday. That was pretty crazy. So maybe I'll use an alligator example. Deanna said, life is always better when you are in a blue ocean surrounded by tranquility and beautiful fish. 100%. So let me tell you about this beast, the multifamily conference, because this is a good example of red ocean, blue ocean, right? So with the multifamily conference, real estate events are a dime a dozen, right? Every weekend you could go to either a free real estate seminar course or pay $97 to go to a real estate seminar course. They're everywhere. Everybody is a real estate guru and they want to do that. So when I realized that I really wanted to run a real estate conference and an event, I wanted to make sure it stood out. So I thought about it from like the red ocean, blue ocean strategy. A red ocean strategy where I would be competing with all the different sharks and everybody else would be to run a weekend workshop where 100 people show up, or 200 people show up, or 50 people show up. You have you rent out a hotel ballroom. You have a small little stage. You have round tables. You have like a free buffet lunch, and then you have like 2 PowerPoint slides on either side. And you get up there and you go through the PowerPoint slides. And that's the real estate event. Everybody has the "Hi, my name is" button, and it's a 1 day, 2 day thing. That's what everybody does. And to be honest, like, I hate real estate events with a passion because they all look like that. So that's red ocean. So if I decided to run a conference or an event like that, and I did that, I would be in the red ocean because all the sharks would be eating each other. Somebody would eat me. I would eat somebody else. You're just competing with everybody else and you become a commodity. And that's why these small real estate events are commoditized. And they're a dime a dozen. But what I did was I created my own blue ocean and attacked it from a totally different angle. So with our event, instead of doing what everybody else was doing, we went way bigger with it. We had high production value with it. We brought in some really cool speakers. We had like fire on the stage. We just made it way bigger. So now the red ocean's over here with everybody else. And now we're set apart in the blue ocean. We've created our own blue ocean. We have no other sharks in our pool. So now we're able to expand and flourish because we have the entire ocean is to ourselves. So that's what we did with the multifamily conference. And that's the approach I took there. And I'm really glad I did. So you don't want to be in the shark pool. You want to be in the blue ocean pool with the bikinis and all that kind of stuff there. Okay, so like I said, the market wants to commoditize you, and it always wants to pull you down. So your ability to differentiate yourself impacts your value to the market. You are able to earn more, achieve more if you have that. Yeah, always wonder why everyone is so willing to share in the real estate industry. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, I'm not sure, Jeff. It's just the way it is. So I'm not sure. But yeah, the market definitely wants to commoditize you. So you really want to differentiate yourself. So you want to jump from the red pool, the bloody pool, to the blue pool. So the way we do that, or at least my approach to this, is 3 steps here. So we want to find a new angle. We want to find our unfair advantage, and we want to create our new sub niche, as I call it. Everybody, like, some people have a different framework for this. This is just the way I think about it in my mind, and how I've used it for everything else. So you might read books and people have a different approach. This is just what works best for me. Okay. So number 1 is, what angle has been missed? So you want to ask yourself a couple questions. Has it been tried before? Did it fail? So maybe you have an idea for how you can create your own blue ocean. You want to really dig deep and research, well, has somebody else tried this? Because if they did and it didn't work, or maybe 5 people tried it and it didn't work, well, that will bring up some questions for you to answer. And chances are your top 5 people have tried and experimented trying to create their own blue oceans, and they've tested a whole bunch of different things that didn't work, and then they found something that worked really well. So chances are, if you have an idea, research it, find out who else has tried it, and see if they failed. Like going back to the conference example, A whole bunch of people have tried conferences, but they never really got it to scale big because they were missing certain pieces, or they ran one way and it failed and it crashed and burned for whatever reason. So you want to know who's tried it before. If it failed, why did it fail? So you really want to research this. And are there questions being asked about this angle that are unanswered by current leaders? The comment section and people's YouTube channels, podcast reviews, whatever it is, blog comments, this is a treasure trove of finding your unique angle. Let me break this down a little bit more. Let's say you're going after a top 5 person and you're researching them, and a type of comment keeps coming up. People are always asking the same question, or they're in the same situation. And this top 5 person isn't really making content speaking to that specific question. It happens all the time, right? So now this could be a great in for you to create your own blue ocean. You could take that one fear, that challenge, that situation a bunch of people are in, and create a blue ocean focused on that problem. That's a great way to do it. So you really want to learn more, as much as you can, about people's current audiences and what questions are being asked. Because, if there's a need, people are asking the question, if they're making that comment again and again and again, there's a need in that marketplace for that answer, but they haven't found that answer yet. And you can be the one to provide that. Now we have to figure out, what is your unfair advantage? So this is your true value that separates you from the pack. So what can you bring to the conversation that others can't? So I want you to take a second right now and really think about this. What is your unfair advantage in your space? What is unique about you that other people can't do? So I'll give you some examples of what I feel some of my unique advantages are and how we try and leverage those. And this might be able to help you leverage yours. So I find in the real estate space, people have a hard time taking complicated subjects and making them easy to understand. You can take real estate funds, real estate syndication. There's a lot of people who make excellent content, but it's at an elevated level, and people get lost in that type of content. So what I find, one of my strengths is taking something really complex and breaking it down so it's easier to understand. So that's one of my unfair advantages. Another unfair advantage that I feel I have is I'm actually able to talk and be on camera and do things. So a lot of investors are very knowledgeable investors, but they don't have the media skill to get up on stage or to record a video or have that conversation. So that's an unfair advantage we try and leverage ourselves by making video content, by doing live streams like this, by being on stage and talking, because a lot of people, they're afraid to do it. And that holds them back because they have that limiting belief. So now we're going to exploit that and work that to our advantage. So I can record a YouTube video and just off the cuff do all the videos, go through it, whereas somebody else, they would hum and haw and wouldn't take action. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. Okay, so does that make sense in terms of unfair advantages? Or maybe you have special education in this niche that most people don't have. Maybe you have a special degree. Maybe you have real world experience that a lot of people don't have. Maybe you have experience from past, maybe, for example, using real estate. Maybe you used to be a real estate lawyer and now you're actually doing real estate investing deals. You're bringing a unique mix to the conversation that most people can't bring, right? I'm not a real estate lawyer. I can bring my own past experience, but I can't bring that combination. That's what makes you unique. So just let me know in the chat. Like right now, obviously you have to think about it, but let me know in the chat, like, what is your unique unique advantage for yourself? And don't be shy. Like it's not bragging. Yeah. So Val, bring a U.S. real estate investor in Canada, right? So yeah, the 100%. So you can bring that uniqueness to the conversation, 100%. And what about life experiences too? You know, some people speaking of life experiences, like I know what it means to lose a whole bunch of assets in a separation, right? So I can speak very intelligently about how you structure things and how the importance of having agreements and all that kind of stuff. So that's something that not a lot of people can, or I guess 50% of the population can talk about. But yeah, like it's these kinds of things. So let me know a couple more examples of your unique selling proposition. Deanna's, so Deanna, I'm a Canadian woman with 20 years of investing experience in 3 countries. Awesome. Corporate America, leadership team. Yeah, that's awesome. I build a program for technical instructors for 6 years. Awesome. Bang on, Deanna, right? So that's a lot of stuff that the market can't replicate. This is your blue ocean, right? So you've got investing experience in 3 countries. Awesome. You've got that corporate America leadership. Boom. That's awesome. Jeff, property management success record to complement new record. Yeah, awesome. Now, Jeff, go deeper with that, right? So we've got a lot of property management, but what is it within that niche that makes you extra unique? So what is it specifically about you, your spin on things, your education, your experiences? What is that really unique thing? Building and renos. Yeah, 100%. So Alex, I'm going to challenge you as well. We have a lot of renovators and rehabbers out there, but what is your secret sauce in the mix? Like, what makes you stand out with everybody else? Like, that's your true value, right? So building and renos are going to be the umbrella. That's a general niche, but what was that unique angle that you have? Maybe you've developed a special system on managing a job site that gets your jobs done 15% faster, like whatever it is. Jeff Ling, retired cop. Yeah, so that's really cool. So Jeff, so 100%. Love a former cop taking care of properties, right? Yeah, so you can actually, so Jeff, like there's so many things you can do with that. You can actually, with your thought leadership platform, you can actually educate people on how to limit break-ins on their properties. Like what would you, as a former cop, a police officer, how would you approach securing a property? How would you make a property safer from that police background? That's a gold mine right there. I think that is awesome, and you can center your entire thought leadership platform around a former cop's take on property management and security and all that kind of stuff. Even interviewing, things to watch out for when you're interviewing prospective tenants. Like that is, I think that's a gold mine right there. Alex, ability to recognize profitable properties. Yeah, so Alex, like you're going to have a system or a framework on what you do to find those properties, and you're going to send that. Picking tenants advantage. Yeah, Jeff, like right now we're going to build out a solid thought leadership platform for you based on this, because I think that is such a cool take on things, and you could go on down so many different ways to help people with that, and I can see that getting a lot of traction. So that's great. Okay, cool. All right. So a couple things to touch on, right? Previous employment. So Jeff mentioned former cop. That's awesome. Do you have special education? Maybe you have a master's or a PhD in something. There's one guy. Oh, I forget his name. I had him on my podcast back in the day. He actually used to work for NASA. He was a rocket scientist, and then he got into flipping. So he had a really unique way of doing that, because he took like a scientist approach. Really interesting guy. Life experience. What types of ups and downs have happened in your life that have really framed how you approach your industry and your niche and how you do it, because somebody won't be able to replicate that. And do you have a unique mantra or way of looking at things that's being built up through your life experience, right? Yeah, 100%. So Val, yeah, so bring discounted properties. Yeah, but I'm going to challenge you though to go deeper than that, because that's still very surface level, right? So yeah, you've got deal flow, but other people can replicate deal flow. Challenge yourself, like what is it unique about you? That like, is it education? Is it life experience? Like what is, like find a better angle than just that deal flow. Like go deeper than that, okay? But this is the whole uniqueness. And, here's a couple ideas here. So what you want to do is now you want to take your uniqueness. So you have the questions, the missed angle, right? We know that there are questions in the marketplace that aren't being answered by the top 5 people. So that's an in for us, right? And then we have our unfair advantage. So what makes us unique? And now we're going to create a new sub niche, our blue ocean, using those two things, because nobody else can do it. And that's going to be that unique thing. So let's break down some examples, right? So these are just like corny examples, but it'll get you thinking on the right track. So let's say you're a doctor and now you're doing distressed real estate assets, right? Your unique angle could be like saving sick assets, right? You're going to bring your doctor approach to distressed assets, and you can combine those. That's unique. Nobody else will be able to do that. Maybe you're a former pro athlete and you're underwriting deals. So maybe you're doing M&A or something like that. You can be studying the plays, bring that pro athlete mentality, the systems of plays, that kind of thing, to the mergers and acquisition space. Maybe it's archaeology. My son loves dinosaurs. So maybe you're a former archaeologist and now you're raising capital for business ventures, real estate startups, whatever it is. Maybe you're digging for investors. So these are different ways that you can take a missed angle on something, and then combining your unique selling proposition, your uniqueness, and really, really coming up with something cool. So again, going back to some of our, like with our conference, there's a bunch of like beginner level, I would say, events, but maybe they'll get 1,000 people, something like that. Most of them are 500 people or less, and it's general beginner real estate investing kind of stuff. But with us, I found that in the event space, in my niche, there was a huge gap in terms of something specific to apartment buildings, which happened to me, my niche anyway. So I exploited that gap, and we launched the multifamily conference, and that is our niche. Nobody else was doing that at the level we're doing it, so we exploited that. Now the uniqueness is, my personality. I hate real estate events with a passion, so we made it not boring. So we added, I'm a big, like, with my personality, right? I wanted it big, so we went huge with it. We had the flyer, the production, all that kind of stuff. Nobody else is doing that, like at all. Everybody's renting hotel ballrooms and having round tables, and it's really boring and it sucks. So like that's how we created our own blue ocean with that. So just keep that in mind. Like with Jeff Ling, retired cop, I think that is a great example in terms of how to do. Lami, I've seen my family suffer time and time again from financial illiteracy. Yeah. Your Bachelor of Science, neuropsychology, currently working highly connected. Yeah, beautiful. So like you can bring that. There are so many unique angles that you can use to help get that message out there through financial literacy, right? Because most other people will not have a Bachelor of Science in neuropsychology. So you can use that to explain why people make financially illiterate. 100%. Thanks, Val. But Lemon, going back to you can start educating people on why they're making those decisions, or why they fall into these traps, what's actually going on in our head, why people are prone to doing that kind of stuff. That 100%. And most people, and this is where, when we're building out our thought leadership platform, and this is important, most people will just stay surface level, and they'll be like, yeah, I want to launch a real estate investing podcast. It's like, great, but like there's 3,000 other real estate investing podcasts out there. So you're not unique, and you're fighting in that red ocean, and that's why it doesn't take off. But if you can really zone in on what's making you unique, that's where you like start having success. Like going back to my example, right, with the real estate events, if I just rented a hotel ballroom and ran an event like everybody else, nobody would care. But because I chose to take that unique angle and really add the uniqueness to it and exploit something that wasn't being covered, it really took off. And that's why we've had that big growth. I'm a CPA, so I can do accounting for blank. 100%. And, as an accountant, you can have a very unique take on a whole bunch of different stuff because you're bringing that accounting, that financial literacy background, 100%. And I'm not sure. Do you mind putting in what your niche is? And maybe we can brainstorm some ideas for you with the accounting. But yeah, that's a great one. And so if you have professional designations, that's really good. If you have life experience, that's great. If you have former employment, like a police officer, whatever it is. Even with me, like I'm a former professional and major junior hockey referee. Like I did that for a living. So like you could even use something like that to throw in. I'm a huge history nerd too. So I could take the history of real estate investing. We're even looking at doing a YouTube video on the history of rent control, because a lot of people think rent control came out in the 80s and 90s. It didn't. There was rent control in World War I. So doing that kind of stuff. Dakota, ex-military, underperforming assets, tactical investing. Yeah, and Dakota, the ex-military thing, that is a really, really powerful thing you can really leverage. A bunch of guys have used that, so you want your own spin on that. I think Dakota, you were Army, right? If I don't misremember, I think you were Army, right? Yeah, there's some really cool things that you can do. Software engineer, multifamily, unlock real returns like a pro on max level. Yeah, special forces. Oh, cool. That's awesome. JTF too. I'm not. Oh, that's pretty cool, Dakota. I didn't realize that. That's awesome. So Sandeep, yeah, software engineer, yeah. So you can take an engineering approach to multifamily, right? So you can break it down as a software engineer, all that kind of stuff. So Jimmy here, general manager at Canada's #1 fitness club. Yeah, you manage 7 clubs. That's awesome. You turn them around. Use earnings by single family homes. Yeah. Jimmy, like that's a great story. So like there's so many like lessons and stuff you can do there that can really give you a unique edge, right? Because with fitness clubs, one thing, right? Like this, like after New Year's, everybody comes in and then they don't. Oh, nice, Dakota. That's awesome. So like with fitness clubs, Jimmy, like what'll happen is like you will like people sign up, right? And then they drop off. So what makes it like, what lessons did you learn from that helped you stick with real estate investing for just so you didn't fall off the bandwagon? Like I'm just spitballing here, but there are so many different things that you can like apply lessons that you learn to exactly what you're doing now. And then like your single family home experience, you can do that to do that, like so many different things. So that's awesome. We are on the right track. Okay. So, so let's move on to here. So any questions here? Is everybody good? Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. If you have a question, toss in the chat. We will answer it. Okay, so your market, like the market in general, can't replicate your new sub niche because only you can bring your uniqueness to it. So it's kind of like, going back to the police officer, property manager example. Nobody's going to be able to replicate that, right? Like your personal stories over 20 years of being a cop and all the break-ins you saw, all like the questioning examples you have, like nobody can replicate it. So that's unique. Nobody can rip you off. Like Dakota, like with your special forces experience, like with the joint incident response and all that kind of stuff, like that's a unique thing. Like you can kind of bring like your like you could really frame it on how you take the lessons you learned on like execution, teamwork, like problem solving, high stakes, like that kind of stuff, and frame it with real estate investing. And you can have a totally different angle. It's kind of like what Jocko does, right? Like Jocko has this unique angle and he relies on his past experience. That for sure. Kelly, you worked at the back end of all types of events for over a decade. Yeah, 100%. So Kelly, like you've probably seen everything there is to see on what goes on behind the scenes of events, and you can use that with your thought leadership platform to add the stories, add the color to it that nobody else can replicate, right? Like, nobody can replicate your own life experience. It is unique to you. So this is what we really have to niche down and figure out, because this is what makes everything unique. So some examples for people taking unique aspects of it. So Lex Friedman, I'm not sure if you know Lex Friedman, but he is an engineer. He's a professor at MIT. He runs a very successful podcast, and really, really interesting guy. And he covers all sorts of different topics. So he's similar to a Joe Rogan, where he'll talk about like love and relationships, to like AI, to like really, really interesting podcast. But he's unique there because he approaches it like everything's through his whole like programming engineering background. Like it's really interesting to hear him talk about his search for love and everything, because like he approaches it through a very like systematic way. Speaking of podcasts with Joe Rogan, right? Like he is so unique in terms of what he does. Number one, he's just himself, and he doesn't give a fuck what everybody else thinks. Number two, he approaches it through his lens, and he has conversations because he's genuinely interested in talking with those people. And he brings his comedy background, his martial arts background, and the conversations he has are unique because he brings himself into that conversation. So many different ways you can do this, right? Using Grant Cardone, right? Grant Cardone's unique because he's himself. Like he brings his own drive. He talks about his mother not having enough and having to sell the house when his father died when he was little. That's unique to him. Marco, just so blast bars are always very humble and open-minded. Yeah, 100%, because they know other people can kick their ass, right? So yeah, like this is what I want to get across to you is like you have to bring yourself into this equation for it to work. If you don't, it just falls apart because you're stuck in the red ocean. Okay, so if you have questions, put in the chat there. Now we're going to get to step number 3, which is distribution. And with distribution, this is like you've built it, you're doing everything, and now like we got to get it out there into the marketplace. Oh, cool. Greg, I didn't know that about you. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So I want to give you an example here. So this is my favorite author of all time. His name is Alexandre Dumas, and he wrote the Count of Monte Cristo, Three Musketeers. He wrote a ton of books, a bunch of different series. Really, really cool guy. He was pretty prolific with what he did. They called his writing workshop the factory, because what he would do was he would hire people, and he produced over 100,000 pages in his career, but he wasn't really producing it. Like it was more like a factory approach. He would hire people, they would come up with the main ideas, they would kind of outline a chapter or a book or an idea, and then he would come in and put his personal touch on it, because he was going for quantity, not quality. So, but he got quality through the quantity. So kind of like what Gary Vee's approach is, you actually learn how to get good by doing a large amount of it. Alexandre Dumas, he did the same thing. And most people will recognize him from writing The Count of Monte Cristo. Like so many movies have been made of the Three Musketeers, different ways of doing it. Everybody knows D'Artagnan and characters like that, but nobody really remembers like the hundreds of other books he wrote that didn't make it. So you have to produce a whole lot of content to get those top winners. So like that's kind of what you have to do. And Gary Vee's on big on this. You know, Grant Cardone, another big producer, Hormozy, another one. You find your gems and you find your masterpieces through the quantity and the high production. So the more of the story here is you have to actually produce the stuff to figure out what's going to stick. If you're only looking at producing a small amount of content, you're not going to be able to test a whole bunch of ideas. Like if Alexandre Dumas tried writing 3 books and that's it, he would not be remembered now as one of the greatest authors of all time, right? But because he was prolific with it, he was able to rise there because he got a couple big pops there. Musicians, right? You write 100 songs, you might get one biggest hit, right? But you got the biggest hit. Now you're remembered. Now you have notoriety. So that's prolific. So take the approach of Alexandre Dumas, Gary Vee, Hormozi, Cardone, whoever you're looking up to for this kind of stuff. You have to be prolific with it. That's why with the podcast approach, I did a podcast every single day. So think of it this way with the podcast. Most people, they do a podcast episode every month or every week. That's what they do because it sounds easy to do, right? Oh, cool. That's awesome, Greg. Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Katie, maybe we can put that up there and give Greg some love. There we go. So like with the prolific nature side, most people with a podcast, they will do a video a month, or sorry, a podcast a month or a podcast a week. Think about it. If you do a podcast every single month, you have 12 podcasts at the end of the year. If you do one every single week, you have 52. If you do one every single day, you will have 365. Now think about this. Who is going to be better at the end of the year? The person who does 12 podcasts, the person who does 52, or the person who does 365? The person who does 365. But even if you do even if you do 52 over the 12, you're still further ahead. This is what I mean. And chances are, if you do 12 podcasts, all 12 might suck. If you do 52, maybe 49 suck, but then like a bunch, or maybe you have one like pop off or 2 that actually do well. But if you do 365, you're giving yourself way more opportunity to get good and to have a good one that actually resonates. And it just gives you so much more data. So the big lesson here that I want you to really, really consider is if you're going to do this, we're not doing it just for the sake of doing it. We're doing it to actually make a difference. And this is why we're going back to your vision. Like, why are you doing this? Who are you looking to impact? What is the message? What are your values? Because if you really care about those values, if you really care about impacting people and touching people, you're going to do way more than the bare minimum, because the bare minimum doesn't accomplish anything. So again, I'm using the podcast example. If you're doing a podcast a month, that's not good enough. Do one every single week. That's not good enough. Do one every single day. I was watching a series on YouTube last night. My fiance found it. This person has been producing in their niche. I forget where their niche is, but they run the channel. They publish a video, a long form video between 7 to 10 minutes every single day. And they've been doing it for the past 3 years. Now it's really interesting because you go through their channel, a bunch of videos, they get 1,500 views, 700 views, 500 views, 2,000 views. That's a lot. But then there's videos with like 50,000 views, 100,000 views, 150,000 views, because they gave themselves more chances to win. It's kind of like, the more shots you take in hockey, the higher your score, like your chances to score. If you don't take a shot, you have 0% to score. If you're in the batter's box, the more swings you take, the more chances you have to hit the ball. Like Babe Ruth, like Alex Rodriguez was speaking at my conference this year. Like, you have to swing in order to hit the ball. So like, I'm kind of harping on this a little bit, and I realize it can feel frustrating. But the thing with this kind of stuff is you have to execute. You can't worry about, oh, this seems like a lot of work. You just have to do it. Like, if I knew how much work running this huge conference was, I wouldn't have done it. But we do it every single year. And now we've got plans to branch out and run different events and stuff like that. We're doing it at that level. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but because it's a lot of work, I don't have a whole lot of competition. And plus, we're able to get good with it. The podcast, did it every single day. YouTube, right? Like we're bringing somebody on, so now we can increase our output and have a higher volume of stuff because we haven't had somebody focusing on it. So we're bringing that person on the team so we can have that output and have those 500 pieces of content every single month going out, or like and that kind of stuff, right? So, hey Lily. So yeah, so that's really what we want to do is we want to focus on being prolific with it, because the more content we do, the better you're going to get, and the more chances we have to have something pop off. Okay. So frequency begets competency. That's a fancy way of saying that, hey, the more you do, the better you get at it. So it's like the whole Gary Vee thing. You know, you get the quality through the quantity. So like, again, to break this down, you know, because I did 365 podcast episodes that first year, I was way better at doing podcasts than somebody who did 12, or way better than somebody who did 52, because I basically gave myself like it would take years for somebody, years, right? 52 podcasts, let's just say it's 50, right? That's going to take 8 years for somebody to do what I did in 1 year. So would I rather spend 8 years learning this or spend 1 year? Because my year 2 was way better because I basically had 8 years of experience compared to the person doing once a week. So just think of it that way. And, you know, with thought leadership too, I know through my own personal experience, is literally changed my life and brought so many different opportunities to me because I'm doing it. So like, I'm very passionate about doing this. And if you just put your mind to it and you commit to doing the reps and putting the work in, it will have that impact. Like, it's done it for me. I've seen it happen with other people, but you can't just half-ass it and do it like once in a while. Like, you have to commit to this kind of stuff. So the next thing to remember is your medium must appeal to both you and the consumer. So let me break this down. If your avatar is somebody who enjoys to read, you should be doing a blog, because that is the preferred medium, like the media that your consumer likes to consume. But it has to appeal to you. If you have a hard time writing, and your consumer wants to read everything, well, you're going to have to find a different angle. Maybe you'll have to find that niche within that overall umbrella that wants to listen to something if podcasting and speaking is your strength. Because let me tell you, if you're doing something on a regular basis, producing a high amount of content, which is what you need to do to get good, if you're producing a high amount and you hate doing what you're doing, you will burn out. Trust me, I've tried that. I tried blogging. I love to write. I'm working on 2 novels, but like, it's not I don't want to write business. It's not me. So I burned out really fast. I fizzled out. It's like a flash in a pan, right? The old flintlock muskets. You put the powder in the pan, you get a flash in pan. It doesn't ignite the main charge. It doesn't go off. So it's like you have to find something that you enjoy doing. So if you like speaking on video, if that's something you're comfortable with and you're able to do it, I highly suggest you do it, because a lot of people get scared and they won't even try it. So that gives you an advantage right off the bat. If you have a voice for radio and you can have those conversations and you're really good at that, do the podcast thing, do the radio show, even like play to your strengths, but you have to find something that appeals to the consumer and you, because you will burn out. I've done it. I've seen other people do it. It's not worth it. So here's some ideas for thought leadership, right? So I've been talking about podcast, TV show, and conference because that's what I've done myself. But there's so many others. Blog, I tried that. I fizzled out. It was a flash in the pan. But maybe that's something that you can make work. YouTube channel. We're growing the YouTube channel right now. We're actually taking that very seriously right now, and we're going to be putting a whole lot of resource into growing the YouTube channel, because that I feel. Breaking things down on video, making complicated things simple, that's a strength. So we're going to play to that. A podcast, you like talking, you're able to talk. Great. Have a podcast. Create an online group. That's even a thought leadership platform. So Greg mentioned that he has a group for military veterans who are in the entrepreneur space. That's a thought leadership platform. Grow that out for sure. In-person meetup. That's a thought leadership platform. a Clubhouse channel. Like if you want to do that, a book is a thought leadership platform. If you're publishing things, you can write white papers. You can start an e-zine, so electronic magazine. These are just so many different ideas. You can even run a conference like me if you want. You can have a TV show, whatever it is. I don't care what it is, but like find something that resonates with you, that you're passionate about, that you know that if you wake up in the morning, you're not feeling great, you really don't want to do it, but you're still able to get through it because you have that deep down passion, right? It's not going to be easy. Trust me, doing a podcast episode every single day, it was a grind and a half, and I hated it for a lot of the time, but I was able to do it. If I absolutely hated it, then like I wouldn't have got through it. But because I had that passion there, and on top, it kind of kept me going through the hard times. Okay. So frequency, sustainable, and prolific, right? So you need the frequency side, you need the quantity, but it has to be sustainable. It has to be something you enjoy doing. And then prolific. Can you touch on how you get a radio show or TV show? Yeah, like that's kind of what we're covering tomorrow. I'll touch, if we have time after this, I'll touch on it briefly. But tomorrow I'll be walking through about the TV show and all that kind of stuff, 100%. Okay, so right now we're going to run through an exercise about building your community, okay? Because we have to figure out who your people are. So what I want you to first think of is, who are the key influencers in your community? Not necessarily the top 5 that we're modeling, but who are the people who have pull? Who are the influencers, other people? So this could be your second tier. So we've got the top 5 at the top, your top dogs. Who's the second tier there? Who do people respect in the space? Who are peers in the space? Who are mentors that you need to connect with in your field? So who's well connected? So whatever space you're in, who are those people that you have to hit and really get connected with? Just think about that for a second and add that on your list. So we've got your top 5 people, but now we're looking at key influencers, key people, mentors, peers, that kind of thing. And then how are you going to build and nurture relationships with other professionals, with those influencers in the space, thought leaders in your niche? How are you going to nurture those relationships? And then I'll give you some examples for me. And then what strategies are you going to use to engage with your audience and build a community around your brand, around your thought leadership platform? We'll touch on this in a second too. So those are the big questions I want you to answer right now. So who are the key influencers, peers, and mentors that you need to connect with in your field? And how are you going to build and nurture those relationships with other professionals and thought leaders in your niche? And then what strategies are you going to use to engage with your audience and build a community and brand? So let's run through my own example, right? So with key influencers and peers and mentors in the space. So with myself, we identified, we're in the multifamily space. We identified the people who people look up to, not necessarily the top 5. So for instance, like Grant Cardone, he would be one of the big fish in the space. But who are some other influencers in the space, peers, people we can talk to, shop with, that we can reach out to? I made an entire list. Like what I did was, every time a name was mentioned to me, I would write it down in a book. And then once I started hearing the same name come up over and over again, I would put a check mark. And then that gave me a pretty good idea after a while of, hey, the same like top 20 names keep coming up. This is a pretty good indicator that this is somebody I should talk to. And then I reached out to them. So yeah, it's all on the list. 100%, Claudia. Cool. So yeah, like that's exactly what I would do, right? So I had the list, and then I would do check marks. And then once I heard a name like 3 times from different people from different sources, I'm like, hey, I definitely would have to, reach out to that person for sure. Okay, so moving on then. So how are you going to build and nurture relationships with other professionals and thought leaders? So one thing I did was I actually started a mastermind group for thought leaders in my space, where everybody could get together, meet each other. We would do some cool things. We ended up putting it on ice because we're doing other stuff. But for a while, like that's what we were doing. So I created this mastermind to foster relationships, which in itself was a thought leadership platform. But that's how I wanted to engage influencers and people who had some pull in the space, right? And then what strategies are you going to use to engage with your audience and build a community? So going back to what Jansen was saying, like about using Instagram and posting and everything, how are you going to engage with your audience? You have a podcast. Great. Well, how does your audience find the podcast? Like, how did you find podcasts researching the space? Did you Google them? Did you go to groups? Were they recommended with people? If so, if they're recommended, well, find an influencer who writes about real estate podcasts or M&A podcasts or healthcare podcasts, whatever it is, and see if you can get on one of their lists to get your podcast out to more people. So now we're kind of turning on our marketing brain a little bit. How can we connect our thought leadership platform with our audience? So, Greg was mentioning about the volume of content some of these people are putting out. Well, that's all geared towards bringing people to one of their thought leadership platforms. So oftentimes, I'll use an example, maybe YouTube. You are starting a YouTube channel. That's your main platform. So all your other content is going to lead people to your YouTube channel at the end of the day. So maybe you'll have some reels and stories on Insta, and then they send people to YouTube. Maybe you write a blog, and then you send people to YouTube from that, because the blog is on the same subject as the YouTube channel. This is a little bit more down the road once you get up and running, but I want you to start thinking about who the influencers are, who your peers are in the space, who are mentors in the space, because these people will give you ideas for content, interviews. If you're doing a podcast, you can do case studies on some of your mentors on how they achieve success. You can do a YouTube video on that. You can write a blog about that. You can feature people in an online community and have them come in as a guest. There's so many different things you can do. Like the answers are there. You just have to go through the exercise and find it. Okay. Is everybody doing okay so far with the strategies and building out the community? And I'll go in a little bit more in depth on that in a little bit. Yep. Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. So by now at this point, you should have done a whole bunch of different stuff. Number one, you should have dissected the your top five people in the space and created a consumer avatar. So you know what the top five people are doing, you know why they're doing it, the common threads between them all, you know what makes them unique, all that kind of stuff. And you have your consumer avatar, you know exactly what keeps them up at night, what their goals are, what their challenges are, all that kind of stuff. Then you've differentiated yourself by combining your unfair advantage and the missing angle to create the sub niche. So it's what's unique about you, and then what's being missed by the top five people, what's being missed in the market. And then you've created your blue ocean, your sub niche, whatever word you want to use. And then you've created a prolific and sustainable distribution channel. So if you're doing a podcast, how often are you doing it? Number one, is it sustainable? But number two, is it prolific? Because writing one book, very, very rarely does somebody write one book and it's a bestseller. But if you write 10 books, you might have a chance with one. Or if you write 100 books like Alexandre Dumas, you might have like a whole bunch pop off. Like that's really where you want to focus on that. Okay. So this is where we should be right now. But there's one last thing we have to do with this. And it's the most important D, right? So we dissected, we differentiated ourselves, and then we talked about distribution. But there's one last thing we have to do. And that's we actually have to do it. Because so many people, they say, hey, yeah, I really want to do this. They go through the exercise, and then they get stuck in the analysis paralysis stage, and they don't do it. But here's the thing, though. Like with me, with my podcast, I had no idea how to run a podcast. I never listened to a podcast before. I never recorded anything before. I knew nothing, but I just started reaching out to people, asking them to come on my podcast. And I just ran these interviews and I figured it out. I am much better off for doing that than if I researched it for 3 months. Like if I researched all the different microphones or researched all the different ways to do it, if I researched all the different ways to market a podcast, I have to listen to 20 of the top podcasts to figure it out. No, just do it. Like you'll learn it. You'll learn way more by just doing it than doing the research. And that's why with this process here, we're focusing on the 5 top people, not 20 people. because 5 people is manageable. You're going to learn a whole lot, but then we do it. We're not going to get stuck in this like perpetual research phase forever, because it's not going to get you anywhere. But the TV show, I'd never run a TV show before. I'd never like done really TV in the past. But I pitched a TV show, I got it done, and then, you know, I just ran the TV show and I figured it out as I went. Yes, I watched Chris Gray's episodes, but I didn't watch 20 different people's TV shows. I watched one guy who I really admired and it resonated with me. I watched his TV shows, I learned, and then I did it. But I didn't wait to like watch all his episodes. I started working on it after I watched like the first season. So again, like you have to do it. With the conference, I decided that night in the middle of the lockdown that I was going to run a real estate conference with Kevin O'Leary. I started doing it. I knew nothing about running events. I'd never run an event before. I knew nothing about speaker contracts, venues, how to put on an event, AV production. I didn't know. I just said I was going to do it, and I did it. So, and it's not just me. Like, I'm not special with it. Like other people, you look at them, they just do it and they figure it out, because chances are, like, there's no plan that survives first contact with the enemy. You know, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. I don't care like which way you try and phrase it. Like, you just have to do it, right? You do your research, you figure it out, you do it really compressed. Like, you can do this research stuff in a week if you want to, then you launch. Like, I don't want you hanging on for a month thinking about it, because you're getting into the danger zone of falling off track. So like, you do the research, you do it hard and fast, and then you just do it. Okay. So any questions with the do it part? Or I should ask, like, who's feeling nervous about that? Because like, I want to be on you for launching your thought leadership platform in a week. So who's feeling nervous here with this? Yeah. Yeah, a couple people. Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's okay to be nervous. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so at this point, we've run through the 3Ds: dissect, differentiate, and then distribute. And then the most important bonus 4th D is do. And that's the most important one. Okay, nothing I haven't felt before. 100% Dakota. Oh, cool. Okay, Marco has a question. Being a lifelong student, how much do you recommend the KPI per program? Okay, so good question. So KPI, I had one of my friends, Mike Reed, he spoke at my first conference, and he runs a program called Key Person of Influence. They really help people, start, like, elevate their brand and experience with that. Yeah, like, if you want to talk offline, Marco, I'll give you. Mike's awesome. He's a new dad, well, relatively new dad, so he's dealing with diapers and stuff right now. But yeah, happy to talk offline about that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, Marco, like, it kind of boils down, like, the gist of the whole everything is just like, create a platform and you do it. Like that's the thing, right? So yeah, like I basically gave you a whole bunch of KPI stuff here. Like, it's just, you have to do it. Cool. Okay, so at this point, we have a good game plan. I gave you all the questions to ask. I gave you the framework to follow to actually build this thing out to have success. So what I want to do right now is I want to open up the floor to some questions. If you want me to run through some of your ideas, if you have specific questions, I'll make sure I'm available for the next 15 minutes to run through all of this stuff with you. And then you'll have your homework to get a bunch of this stuff done. And then tomorrow we're going to go very granular with this. I'll walk you through exactly how I ran the podcast, how I started it, troubles I ran into, all that kind of stuff. Same with the TV show, same with the conference. So we're going to get really specific with exactly what we're going to cover. So I'll leave the Q&A open right now. If you have questions, if you want to go through specific, if you want to bounce ideas off me for your specific niche, whatever, happy to go through that and run through that. So as we're getting into that, I'll give you an example. One thing with the podcast. A lot of people worry about like a logo and a name and that kind of stuff. I honestly think I had the stupidest name for my podcast. And when I think of it now, I don't even think it makes sense. So I named my podcast, I wanted to have like some alliteration in there. So I called it Purchase to Profits. That's what it was called at the time. And I was thinking about it. It's like, purchase what? Like purchase to profits? Like, what does that even mean? And it was the most ridiculous name, but we ran with it because the name doesn't really matter. Like, what matters is you do it. So, but now I kind of subscribe to the idea as we're naming things, and I'll walk through this tomorrow with the TV show and everything in the conference. But I tend to find people get too cute with what they're trying to name things and be too fancy. Just tell people what it is. So, with our conference, we called it the multifamily conference because we cover multifamily real estate. Like, that's what we do. We didn't call it the elevated investor conference or whatever. Like, we just told people this is what it is. And that oftentimes can be your best marketing for your product or your platform, is just tell people what it is, and there's no confusion, because like a confused mind won't take action with something. So we'll cover that stuff tomorrow as we actually start naming, and I'll walk through all of that kind of stuff. Okay, everybody's we got a ton of people on here and everybody's being shy, so that's awesome. Well, that's not awesome, but it's good that we ran through and answered all the questions. So what we'll do, if nobody else has any questions, if you don't want me to run through things with you, we'll wrap up for today, and then you'll have a whole bunch of homework to do tonight. You'll walk through all these different things, and then tomorrow what we'll do is we're going to focus, and I'll walk through exactly about the podcast, exactly about the TV show, exactly about the conference, and I'll share some of the behind the scenes stories that most people don't know about, all the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this stuff, because it's not easy. Like, it takes a whole lot of work, but the impact it makes is pretty good. Okay, so I'll stay on for another minute if somebody wants to run through questions or anything, and yeah, we'll get ready for tomorrow. And I seriously enjoy this stuff because I'm passionate about it. It's had a big impact on what I do, and yeah, it's been a game changer. Awesome, great. Well, here we go. Gideon, would you recommend having a website before doing a podcast? No, who cares? Just launch it. Like, a website now with Wix, or you could go ClickFunnels, Go High Level, whatever it is. Who cares about the website? You can do a website in an hour and have something up and running. And I'm going to be tomorrow. Make sure you come tomorrow, because I'll be talking about some mistakes I made with the website and stuff with the podcast. But yeah, you don't need to have a website. Just start the podcast. Like, I literally had zero when I launched the podcast. I had assets. I had like some nice stuff, and I lost everything. And I literally started at zero in the bank, zero at everything. I had nothing, and I started the podcast. So don't worry about the website. That's just something that's going to distract you. Just start. Great. Awesome. Okay, cool. So great question, Gideon. Make sure you come on tomorrow, because I'll be walking you through the great. Oh, Kelly, what did A-Rod talk about at your real estate conference? How did you book a big name celebrity like Kevin Leary? Did you have to pay him a lot? Ha! Yeah. So I'll tomorrow I'll go deep into this. I'll give you some high level stuff right now. So yeah, A-Rod. Most people don't realize that A-Rod is a pretty successful real estate investor with A-Rod Corp. So obviously he has his business portfolio, but he owns a lot of units, like tens of thousands of apartment buildings. He's really big on real estate and very, very knowledgeable. So with A-Rod, one of the reasons why I wanted to get A-Rod at the conferences, most people have a different impression of him. They see him as a baseball guy, but like very astute businessman, and like he knows his shit. Like when you're talking with him, like he's operating at such a high level in terms of what he's doing. Very, very knowledgeable. Like, and I thought he put on a great talk. So we talked about not only investments and what he looks for, pitching, and not pitching baseball, but pitching deals, what he looks for in deals, like what's going on the other side of the table with investors, how he approaches scale, like why he's choosing multifamily, what he sees going on in the market. I thought it was a great hour we spent with him, and it was awesome. But the big thing with conferences and events is, Kelly, you have to focus on scale, right? Because I call it, A-Rod was fantastic. Yeah. Really enjoyed his session. Yeah. Like A-Rod was great. And like talking with people after, a lot of people, we changed their minds on how they viewed him. Cause like I said, a lot of people view him as just a sports guy, but like he is such an astute businessman, and he runs a great team with that. So, but yeah, so Kelly, with events specifically, there's a couple different things we look at. I'll be covering this more in depth tomorrow, but you really have to figure out your gravitational pull of the event. What's going to pull people into your event, right? So what's the transformation that they want to achieve by coming to your event? What's the sizzle factor? I got the hiccups now. What's the sizzle factor? Like what's going to attract people? Because at the end of the day, your event's going to be made up of a triad. So you've got your attendees, your speakers, and your sponsors. Those are the three components of every event. Now, with speakers want an audience. And the higher level speaker you get into, the more you need that audience. So right now, we attract the speakers we do attract. Like we haven't made the official announcements yet for next year, but we've got some pretty big people coming. Like I'm really, really excited to announce who we've got for next year, 2024. We're attracting them because we have mass. And this is where, like in real estate investing, the bigger you go, the better it gets. Same with events, right? So if you have 300 people, Kevin O'Leary's not showing up. If you have 300 people, Grant Cardone's not showing up. Like Richard Branson's not showing up. But if you have 3,000 people, then the speaker, like you attract the better people, and it makes your contract negotiations a whole lot better, because that's where they're looking. The speaker's looking for an audience, and if you can provide that audience, which is what we're able to do now with our conference, you get some top tier talent. Now, yeah, like you are paying them because like they're traveling. If think with Alex Rodriguez, because we were just talking about him, he's taking a day away from his business and his family and everything, his daughters, to come to the event. There's a cost for that. And obviously the more successful the person, the higher the cost, because they're going to take their private jet. So there's travel costs, most likely. They have to take time away from their business. So, they can't do meetings that day and all that. It's like even for like, I'm nowhere near that level now, but for me to take a day away from the business, like that's impactful. So it has to make sense for you to do it. And obviously you have to pay them. But there's a way to structure things and all that to make it work out. I can touch on that tomorrow, Kelly, if you have specific questions on that. But yeah, with an event, like you need to make sure you nail that gravitational pull. And I found through my experience, because like events will come to us now and they'll ask us for help. Hey, like I've been stuck at 500 people for the past 4 years. Why aren't we growing? And most people think they have a marketing issue. It's generally not marketing. It's the event itself. Like it's just not built to scale, and they're missing some key pieces on how to put that together. So I hope that makes sense. Awesome. But yeah, we'll be covering that tomorrow. I'll be sharing some more stories with you. Cool. Awesome. I don't see any other questions. So yeah, we had a really good turnout. So this is great. So looking forward to tomorrow, which is September 26th tomorrow. Oh, happy birthday to me. I'm going to be getting some more gray hair tomorrow. So we will be running 12 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you do your homework, answer those questions, and then we can hit the ground running. And outside, I'll be focusing specifically on my experiences with my podcast, the TV show, and the conference. But we tried the blogging. We've done a whole bunch of other stuff. I've done the meetup group. So if you're interested in doing that kind of stuff, I can give you some personal experience with that as well. Not saying like I haven't run the best meetup group ever, but I can at least get you started and give you some stuff. I'm like with the blog, our blog sucked, so it didn't really go anywhere, but I can at least get you started and give you some experience, but you'll want to find and model the top bloggers in your space to really learn from them. So happy to share what I can. Cool. We'll wrap up. Really enjoyed this. We had some great ideas here, and we had people on every single different platform. So that was awesome. So see everybody tomorrow, 12 p.m. EST, September 26th, which is Tuesday, and we'll have a whole lot of fun. Have a great day.